Welcome to this video which investigates the significance of federation in Australia today. Throughout history, many countries have had to engage in violent and bloody conflict to become self-governing. But Australia's federation in 1901 was a peaceful process. The event is no less significant, however, for it marked the birth of the modern nation now referred to simply as Australia. People have different ideas about what a nation actually is, and the meaning of nation has changed over time. One way to explain a nation is that it is a large group of people who see themselves as having various things in common, such as a dominant language or languages, and certain cultural characteristics. These people usually live within a defined space under a government that all members of the community recognise as having the authority to make laws for them all. For a long time, people have been discussing just what characterises a nation, and not everyone agrees. However, we could say that a nation is united under a single constitution which controls the powers it has, such as the power to make laws in certain areas, identifies the majority of its inhabitants as citizens with certain rights and responsibilities, has an official language or languages, has a common currency, has national symbols such as a flag and a coat of arms, has a single armed force, usually including infantry, naval and air forces, and has cultural and social values which it promotes. The Federation of States meant that Australia was able to be recognised as a nation in its own right on the world stage and be represented independently of Britain. Before Federation, the 6 colonies were still linked to Britain politically, but the Australian-born children of the free settlers and convicts gradually shifted away from thinking of England as home. Most of them had never even been there, and so they began to assert their rights as Australians. But what does it mean to be an Australian? What makes Australians unique from other nationalities? Is it what we do, how we think, or what we stand for? Although many Queenslanders still like to keep old state rivalries alive, such as during the annual State of Origin Rugby League competition, the concept of a national pride or identity had started to form long before Federation. The current Australian national anthem, Advance Australia Fair for example, was first performed in 1878, long before Australia officially even existed as a nation. And around the same time, the bushranger Ned Kelly and his gang rose to fame. Although born in the colony of Victoria, Kelly expressed his identity as native, identifying himself clearly as Australian. Since Federation, the government has tried to establish an identity for Australia by selecting a variety of symbols to represent the new nation. These included the adoption of a national flag, originally called the Blue Ensign, which combines the Union Jack with the stars of the Southern Cross and the Commonwealth Star, and the adoption of the official national colours of green and gold. However, the most formal of all our national symbols is the Commonwealth Coat of Arms, which represents the Commonwealth of Australia and appears today on government documents. Let's take a closer look at how the Coat of Arms, which has been used since 1912, reflects Australia's unique history and culture. In the centre are the badges of Australia's 6 states combined on a single shield with a border to signify the federation of the former colonies. Above this is the 7-pointed Commonwealth Star, which has a point for each of the Australian states and one for the territories. There is a kangaroo and emu holding the shield. It is believed that these 2 Australian native animals cannot walk backwards easily, and therefore they were chosen for the arms to symbolise the nation moving forward. Note also that the shield sits atop a spray of golden wattle, which is Australia's floral emblem. So other than our national symbols, what else identifies us as uniquely Australian? Is it our iconic places like Uluru and the Sydney Harbour Bridge that make people from all around the world instantly recognise this country? Or is it our famous Australians that help us to understand ourselves? Perhaps our Australianness is defined by what we do on the weekends, for example our love for the beach and char grilling meats on a barbecue. It might be the pride we feel when we watch our sporting teams battling for victory. Did you know that in 1868, well before Federation, a group of Aboriginal cricketers became Australia's first international sports team when they toured England? And in 1882, a group of the best cricketers from each of the 6 colonies formed a team that beat England in a test match in London to establish the Ashes legend. Still others claim that being Australian is all about the values we hold dear. Barracking for the little guy or underdog, our relaxed and laid-back nature, the cheeky or larrikin sense of humour, and a belief that everyone deserves a fair go are just some of the qualities that we like to celebrate as being important in today's Australian society. It is difficult to define exactly what it means to be Australian, because today we are a nation of different groups, with a range of experiences, living in a diverse landscape. Some people live near the sea, others have never even seen it. Some are recent immigrants, others have a connection with Australia which goes back many thousands of years. Some have strong connections with European history, while others are tied to Asia. Some have no religion, while others are deeply religious. Some love football, and others hate all sport. Regardless of our differences, most of us would identify with at least some of these ideas about Australia, which help to foster a sense of belonging to the nation. Over the last 100 years, the definition of what it means to be Australian has continued to broaden. However, this wasn't the case in 1901, when many social groups, including migrants, Aboriginal peoples and Torres Strait Islander peoples, women, and even some children, were not recognised as citizens with the same status and rights afforded to other Australians. For them, Federation signalled the start of a long struggle for acceptance in Australian society. To summarise, Federation was a significant event because it marked the birth of the development of Australia as a democratic nation with its own government elected by its people. It also signalled great changes in Australian society, with debates around citizenship and the search for a unique Australian national identity still continuing today.